Hi, everyone. My name is Ben. I'm a researcher at the University of Edinburgh, and I'm currently working on tests of exotic theories of gravity and energy using galaxy surveys. I'm also a co-founder of the Fautor organization, which is a nonprofit, which has recently released a web platform, which I'll be talking to you a bit about today. So I prepared some slides, which I'll share with you now. There we go. Okay. So you might be asking, what is Fautor? So I think the best place to start is with a definition, which tells you a lot about what it's about. So Fautor in Latin means someone who supports. So our platform is really to garner support for science from the public mostly. And you might be asking, well, don't governments or really rich people do that for me? And that's true. But there's a lot to be left desired when it comes to the current method of research funding. So the current method is highly inefficient, and I'll tell you why. So many days or weeks or even sometimes months of a researcher's life is spent writing these research applications, which are then sent to government bodies for money. So indeed, we spend a lot of time like this, writing these long applications in order to pay our rent and eat so that we can do science in our extra time or our work time. So that's a lot of time spent on just writing about research, asking for money. And essentially what you get when you've written this application and sent it off is a lottery ticket. So if your research application is good enough, then everything else is sort of up to chance. And this can depend on, for example, the research tastes of the person who's reading your application, but also their mood on the day that they review your application. So it's highly chance dependent. And if you're lucky, you get the golden ticket and you get money to pay your rent and eat and do all the other things that you do in your life, plus research for another few years, right? So these applications are usually for grants which last a few years. If you're unlucky and you don't get anything, then you might say, okay, I can do that again next year and I can spend more weeks of my life writing about research and not actually doing research. Or I can just jump ship and become a banker, which is actually what some of my friends have done in the past. So it's really chance related. But more than that, it's highly inefficient. So this article from 10 years ago found that scientists in Australia spend more than 500 years, so 5 centuries, every year just writing about research in these grant proposals, which is crazy. And that's not even counting the work of the people who review these applications, all the administrative, all the administration that needs to be done. So there's a lot more time at the end of the day that is wasted every single year. And me and the other people in Fautor have done a small extrapolation of that. So we've extrapolated it to the whole world. So we wanted to see how much time is wasted by scientists every year in the whole world. And that came to something like 20,000 years, which is crazy. And in 20,000 years, if you look at this, we were just making pots 20,000 years ago. And now we're walking on the moon and, we have iPhones and all this other crazy stuff. So 20,000 years, you can do a lot. And there's 20,000 years of time wasted every single year by people doing science, just applying to do science. So this is where Fautor comes in. So we want to go back to an older model of research funding. So quite old, as you can see, this photo was taken in the 1920s. And you might recognize one of the people here. It's Marie Curie, so two-time Nobel Prize winning chemist. But you might not recognize this person on the left, which is Mary Maloney. So Mary Maloney was a Fautor of Marie Curie. So she supported her research financially. And how did she do this? So Marie Curie was working with radioactive substances, and she needed radium to conduct further experiments. And radium is extremely expensive. So 1 gram of radium is $1.5 million today. So back in the day, back in 1920s, it was about $100,000, but we correct for inflation. So Mary Maloney wanted to raise $1.5 million to buy Marie Curie a gram of radium. And what she did is she went on this very big funding campaign for Marie Curie, and she managed. And she bought her this 1 gram of radium, and Marie Curie could continue her science, and it was great. So we want to go back to this model where the public funds research they find interesting or relevant. So this brings us to Fautor. So Fautor has 2 types of users. We have the authors like Marie Curie or scientists. And on the platform, we want to do a bunch of things. So we want researchers to be able to put the articles that they've written, their scientific articles, on the platform so you can see what research is being done. We want researchers to also be able to apply for money on the platform. We want researchers to review other articles. So this won't happen on the platform, but we want them to be compensated for reviewing other articles. And we want them to be able to attract people who will support their research on the platform. So we want to collect all those things and sort of put them in one space. But on the other side, we also want people who are interested in research, the Fautors, so the public who want to fund research and science. We want them to do a bunch of things on the platform too, because you need them at the end of the day to support research. So we want them to be able to support individual pieces of research, so individual research papers. We want them to be able to fundraise research grants for projects they think are particularly interesting. We want them to be able to read articles about pieces of science that have been done. And we also want them to find researchers, or authors in this case, that they think are doing really, really good research and that they can go and support. So Fautor is a place where all these things hopefully come together, and we'll have a really, really great environment where people from the public are taking interest in science, and scientists are telling people in the public domain about their research and trying to get them interested in this great science that they're doing. So really important for all this is for researchers to properly disseminate their research and promote their own research, which is something that we'll be looking a bit at today. So we'll go to the website now. I'll click on this, and we can create a profile and maybe start publicizing ourselves on the platform.